Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days.
There might have been a organized plot. I don't know all the facts. I don't think we all know all the facts, but I was deeply concerned that this could have been, another highly organized attack on the country.
Marx looked around for other means of livelihood and fame, eventually terminating his relationship with the Tribune and devoting his talents full-time to the cause that would bequeath to the world the seeds of Leninism, Stalinism, revolution, and the Cold War.
This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
Hello, Neil.
Who are you?
I am the architect.
If there's a principal nemesis of Noah, it's Tubal Cain. What do you want?
Did you really think you could protect yourself from me in that?
One thing that the Bible says about him is that he was a forger of weapons. He was a descendant of Cain, the first murderer. This seems like a pretty good person to have as a representative of the wickedness of men.
The Creator does not care what happens in this world. We are alone.
The wickedness is not just in them. It's in all of us. I saw it.
Tubal Cain believes in God, but he believes God has abandoned us.
There is no escape for you and your kind. Your time is done.
Death comes from the heavens! We take the ark!
It begins.
He still needs a lot of work.
What are you doing?
Your muscles have atrophied. We're rebuilding them.
Why am I, sir?
You've never used them before. Rest, Neil. The answers are coming. Come with me. See for yourself.
This is my ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. It's a hovercraft.
This is the main deck. This is the core.
Freemasonry is probably one of the first things you hear of when you start delving into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. It's one of the most marketed, talked about topics. So For those that don't know, my first slide is the symbol. It's the compass and square with the G in the middle, and my slide has it over a U.S. flag, just to kind of show that they have a lot of dominance in the United States government and everything else. So they're very big here, and they're big here because they pretty much got kicked out of other places and were allowed to grow here. And not a lot of people know about them, but on my slide number 2, where I have the 2 different variations of Masonic temples, one's in like a, I don't know, like a podunk town out in Arizona or California or something, and at the top of the steeple there's a statue situation I'll explain. But if you were to drive by this thing, it looks like just like a little hometown church, in the middle of a country town. You probably drive by and not even realize that was a Masonic temple that you just drove by. And then the other picture to the right of that is a Masonic temple in downtown Detroit. And the thing is massive. It's huge. But again, when you're in Detroit, downtown, all the buildings are massive down there. So you could simply drive by even a building that big and not know that was a Masonic temple. So it's kind of like... A lot
of them actually like to show themselves as being a Masonic temple, and their brickwork will actually have that there.
Right.
But you would say that there pretty much every town that has at least, a good size amount of people is going to have a Masonic lodge, even if it's so small that you wouldn't even know it's there. Every town has one.
For sure.
Say.
For sure. And yeah, so that's why that slide's hidden in plain sight, because even the other day I drove by something that looked like a house, so it didn't even look like a church, and I saw guys pouring out of there with their, it looked like families or something. It was a family event, but the guys came out with their Freemasonic aprons on and everything, and I was like, I didn't even know this was a lodge here.
And then, the thing is, they're so big that they're in France, they're in London, there's a big one in Iowa, what is it, Rapids Fall, some weird city in Iowa, has one of the largest volumes of Freemasonic writings held there. In Washington, D.C., you've got Temple of the House, which is like the supreme governing body of the whole world of lodges.
Yeah.
So they can be as small as being in a small town where you wouldn't notice it, and they can be so large that it's unmistakable that is a Masonic lodge.
Absolutely. So, and I even drove downtown here, Lansing, the other day, because I go to the courthouse frequently, and just looked to my left at something that looked like older architecture than the other buildings, and that was a Masonic temple. They don't even use it anymore. But it's the Lansing Masonic Temple, and it's got the same Romanesque, Greco-Roman type of architecture to it. I think the building's being used for something else now, but it was labeled Masonic Temple, and that's what pulled up on Google when I checked it out later. So it's pretty crazy that it's been there the whole time. I didn't even know, and I've lived here majority of my life. So the statue above looks like a little girl coming up to like a column or something that's been broken over, and behind her is what looks like an angel with wings, and it has a scythe, like what they would use in a harvest, a big sickle, the knife at the end of the pole.
A harvest.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, that's supposed to be Father Time or the god Saturn for Roman mythology. And I can't find exactly the story about the girl, but I know there's something that has to do with ambrosia being put in her hair, and it's kind of supposed to be symbolic of, I think it has more to do with the temple need to being rebuilt, like it's broken over and you have to build yourself up to rebuild it, something like that. And I'm trying to read through an article right now from Albert Mackey, who is one of the big historians on Freemasonry.
I am, yes, I'm familiar. The Encyclopedia of Freemasonry is probably one of his biggest works and widely available at that.
Yep, and I got a link right here I'm gonna put in the presentation when we're done, that it's got by topic. You can click on it and then it'll break down each different thing. But this was supposed to talk about the sprig of acacia, and I think that's what it's supposed to be.
You know, a lot of those Masonic lodges, just because they have so many orders, so many rituals, and it's not just a ritual to get to the next degree.
Right.
It rituals that they have for whatever reason throughout the year.
Yeah.
They meet. So you're going to have a lot of those type of things that are related to like old religion, back to Egyptology, to, you know, Gracian religion, and your stories from, you know, those gods and goddesses of that time.
Right. So this is one of the stories that's supposed to do with the entire foundation of becoming a Master Mason, because there's 3 steps that lead up to this statue and kind of story it's telling. But I don't have time to read through it, and I'm not going to waste anybody's time. But I'm going to throw this link up on the presentation so people can read into it and figure out what they figured out. I watched a video on it a while ago, but I don't remember the exact story. I just got reminded of it when I was looking up pictures of Masonic temples, and then I saw that on top of one. I'm like, oh man, I got to add that in. That's part of their whole spiel that they do. But anyways, besides that story, the biblical story, unless you got something you want to throw in before I go into the Tubal Cain stuff.
Well, basically this was the topic of just the origins of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you leading into? Just give me a little.
So this will be like their claiming their biblical explanation of their origin, you know, from the Bible, but I won't go past that.
I would say that because we already know and it's established that Freemasonry is a religion. So again, we're gonna Albert Pike, for anyone who just isn't familiar with Freemasonry, that would be one of the first books to read. Because it's like, again, that's another book that's just widely available.
Yep.
So, I mean, I put a few quotes in my slides about the origins of Freemasonry, and before it was called Freemasonry, because Freemasons didn't come about till about the 1600s or so. So their roots go all the way back to when we talked about this before, pantheism. So it is an acceptance of all gods and goddesses.
Right. So, what I found out was Tubal Cain is supposed to be a descendant of Cain. So if you know who Cain is in the Bible, that is, you had Abel and Cain. Cain and Abel were the 2 brothers that were from Adam and Eve. And they fought each other, they argued, and Cain ended up slaying Abel and killing him, and Cain forever was cursed after that.